Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to have a webinar on conflicts, and this webinar is for NIBM Global. Conflict. It is defined as a disagreement between two individuals or groups. It's very common. You have conflicts, I have conflicts, we see conflicts, and sometimes conflicts goes to a right. Now, there are two views on conflicts. One is the traditional and one is the interactionist view. The traditional view says that the conflicts are harmful and they must be avoided. Every conflicts on this earth are like fruitless. That doesn't have any value. But the modern or the interactionist view says that conflict is a positive force and an absolute necessity for a group to perform effectively. Taking you to the movie Chak De India, there is a particular scene from where Shah Rukh Khan is like not really comfortable with the group, that the girls are they need asking for a change of their coach, and Shah Rukh Khan is hosting a sea of party. And that particular party, there was a trigger and a boys team comes and have a row with the girls. At that particular point, there is a conflict. And what is the after effect of the conflict is that they understand that there is a unity amongst them. And there is a positive force that derives, which leads India to success. So this is the interactionist view. In this particular line, let us move forward. There are different types of conflicts. One that can be between the individual, between two individuals, between an individual and a group, between two groups, between two organizations. So these are the different types of groups in conflicts. And there is one particular conflict that an individual have within himself. Conflict within the individual. Now, the role of the individual does not match with the values held by the individual. For example, the organization or the place where he is working is asking him to do something which is really not matching with the views or the values that he is upholding. For example, a person who is very soft-natured, he is having the duty of a collection manager or a hard collection manager. Now, there is a conflict of interest there. A secretary of a crooked boss who is wanting to tell lies to the clients for some faulty products. Now, that particular person has a very good value of upholding very righteousness and truthfulness, but the situation is demanding him to say lies. So there is a conflict that happens between the person and his role. So this is the conflict within the individual. Very common conflict is the next one, that is the interpersonal conflicts. The conflicts that happens between two individuals. Maybe two managers are fighting for a promotion. Third one is a conflict between an individual and a group. There is one particular scenario which says that there is a group of waiters in a hotel, and the policy is like the tips that the hotel gets, they are trying to divide it equally. But one particular individual who is a very good performer feels that it should not be based on the individuals, it should not be divided individually, but based on the effort that is put by each individual. So based on that, there is a conflict that he is having between the group. And next one is the inter-organizational conflicts, where two organizations are having conflicts. This is on a very larger parlance. Now, what are the causes of conflicts? The cause of conflict could be the communicational cause, where there is no effectiveness in the proper communication channel. Maybe the communication itself is wrong, or the channel which carries out the communication is faulty. Behavioral aspect of the conflict and the structural aspect of the conflict. The structural aspect of the conflict could be something like the size of the organization, the line staff distinction, the participation, the role ambiguity, the person, what role he ought to perform in that particular organization, the design of the workflow, the scarcity of the resources. All these could be the structural aspect of the conflict. Now, we saw what is conflict, we saw the types of conflict and the causes of conflict. Next is, what is conflict management? The use of resolution and stimulation techniques to achieve a desired level of conflict. See, conflict could be fruitful only if it is in the optimum level. So in order to derive that particular optimum level of conflict, we need to have conflict management. Now, this is the duty of an HR manager or a personal manager. Now, there are some resolution techniques. If you see a conflict, there are some techniques by which you can resolve. The first one is problem solving. It's quite very common, where you ask the parties who are having conflicts and have a face-to-face meeting with the conflicting parties. Next one is superordinate goals. There are two conflicting parties and you bring out a superordinate goal, or a goal that only when these two parties join hands and do in unison that the goal is being met. That is what is meant by superordinate goals. Next one is the expansion of resources. When the conflict is created by the scarcity of resource, money, promotion, etc., expansion of resource can create a win-win situation. So the next one is avoidance. The conflicting party can avoid the other person, or maybe from the managerial point of view, the manager, the top level can avoid the conflict, the conflicting parties. Maybe the avoidance is also a kind of technique, conflict resolution technique. Another one could be accommodating. This could be a little spiritual level, where as what the spiritual guru says, you forget and forgive. So the willingness of one party in a conflict to place the opponent's interest above his or her own, like accommodating the other person. Next one is collaborating. The situation in which the parties of a conflict desire to satisfy fully the concern of the other parties. You collaborate and again work together in unison. You compromise. Each party compromise something so that they have equally a win-win situation, or a win-lose situation does not really occur. The last one is competing, a desire to satisfy one's interest regardless on the impact on the other party. This is little on the ruthless side, where the one party becoming competing and might be of little hurt to the other person. And finally, when we come to the conclusion, we say that we spoke about conflict. What are the views of conflict, the traditional and the modern, the types of conflicts. Then we had a discussion on the causes of conflict, conflict management, and finally we looked into the conflict stimulation techniques. So conflicts are inevitable. Let there be conflicts, but the beauty is in how you resolve the conflict and bring out the maximum from that particular situation. Thank you. This is Jitin Benedict for NIBM Global.